Hi guys, it's Luetin here, and today I'm going to be talking to Heartless. Now he's a fantastic playthrough Let's Player, and one of the series that he produced quite a while ago now was Haunting Ground, and this was quite an amusing and interesting game. If you haven't seen it, I would advise you to check it out, and if anybody's watching this on Heartless's channel now and you haven't ever watched it, I would advise you strongly to go and check it out. So Heartless, do you want to sort of vaguely break down the game, the sort of what it is, what inspired you to sort of begin it to begin with? What was it, what made you think, okay, this is one that I'm going to want to play through?
It's the same as with every game that I want to play on my channel. It's purely because people have suggested it, and like, I don't know if you remember, you probably do, but back when we had channel comments that were actually prominent on our front of our channels, I had a sort of like a forum-y type thing going on, and people were always suggesting games on there and chatting about them and stuff, and there were so many people saying, do Haunting Ground, that I just sort of immediately went on eBay, bought it for a price that I probably shouldn't have at the time, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I think as well, doing these kind of discussions, I should just say, there's like a little intro as well. I don't see so many people who do playthroughs on their channels do kind of collaborative breakdowns or discussions of games they've played through. I know when I play games, I always kind of want to talk about them afterwards, and with my channel and the people that I do sort of work with, we often sort of look back at games or expansions that have come out and sort of break them down. So I think it's kind of interesting to do this and talk about other games, and I know I've started doing my playthrough channel as well, and it'd be great to talk to you about a couple of other games as well. But I mean, what do you think about that, the idea of kind of going back and looking at things? Because I haven't seen it so much. I see so many people who do Let's Plays, playthroughs, and lots of guys that I follow and watch as well, but they never sort of, they finish a game and then that's it, it's finished, and people don't kind of talk about it or conclude. Or I always think it's interesting because there's a whole community of people, playthroughs, Let's Plays, people are working together, and I know there's guys that you sort of follow and talk to and stuff like that. What do you think about this, about sort of discussing games afterwards? Because I think it's interesting for subscribers and stuff to actually have a kind of little conclusion, almost like an overview once the game has been completed, or even to, like we're doing, kind of look back at it.
I think looking back on it as a game and as like an LP or playthrough in general would be interesting, especially with something like Haunting Ground, because like, as much as I hated it when I played through it, I can appreciate the fact that depending on how you treat the game, depending on how you treat Huey and stuff like that, you can get a different ending. Like if I wanted to, and I hated the game that much, I could have finished it like halfway through with a dodgy ending where I think Ricardo like does something odd to Fiona, but instead I carried on right to the end, and I regretted it instantly, obviously. But I think on reflection, discussing it with somebody, you would probably pick up some things that you would have missed usually. Yeah,
definitely. And I think the other thing is that it's good that time has passed, because was it 2009 that you did the game? I think it was.
Oh, a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been quite a few years. So great to sort of do a game and complete it and then come back so much time after it's passed and sort of think about it. And like you say, you can almost come look at it with a slightly different perspective. But I mean, like you say, it was clear that there were times where it was absolutely such a frustrating game to play. The way that Fiona is just constantly freaking out all the time, and there's so many hilarious moments where she just seems to just fall over for no reason. She'll be running along.
What she's doing. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but that bit where she's behind the bars and there was clearly a shiny thingy on the floor and she wouldn't pick it up. But it wasn't just me being a pillock, it was her not picking it up, because then she did. Do
you think, though, that like with games like this, that often sort of flaws in the actual code, the mechanics, can somehow make a game more fun in a way? Do you know what I mean? Because as frustrating as it is, it kind of makes it hilarious. You end up having these sort of moments that if she'd have just walked over and picked it up, it wouldn't have been that interesting at all. But the fact that there's sort of flaws in games, and I tell you, this is something that I've noticed. My main channel that I run is FPS, it's tactical objective games and stuff like this, but my playthrough gameplay channel, my gaming channel that I've just started running now, which is sort of starting out, a lot of people that are watching have come from my other channel, so they expect like this kind of precision element to all the playthrough. But as you know, that's not how these things go. Yeah, exactly. My Dead Space that I've been playing as well, I've made some catastrophic errors, or there's been things that didn't quite go right, and people have been pointing out, going, you can't do that. I mean, did you ever get that problem, and do you still get that problem where people are over analysing and pointing things out? Does that bug you, or do you literally just ignore that?
It used to bug me, but now it doesn't so much, because I know that there's going to be, there's an LP that I watch, and he calls them the YouTube experts. Like, there'll always be the person that goes, you missed this or whatever. But now, it's like we were saying a second ago, where we were saying, people have their own experiences. Like me with Dead Space, you with Dead Space, where we didn't know what to do at that asteroid bit, because it doesn't really explain it too well.
No.
But there'll be some people that would go like, I did that in 2 minutes. Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Haunting Ground especially, there were so many points in that where you had no idea what to do, especially with that plate thing where I just sort of writ odd things on it.
Yeah.
But people were like, write this. But I was like, no, spoilers, stop.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, I think when a gameplay is up, you forget that as a viewer, when you're watching it, you don't, you're not in the same mindset. Whereas when you're actually in a game, you're kind of in a different space, a different mindset. And so the things that may seem incredibly obvious to someone who's literally sitting relaxed watching it, and they're just sort of, they're almost thinking more clearly about it. When you're in game, you're worried about other things like what's going to kill me, or what's around this corner, is something going to jump out on me. But as a viewer, you're not so worried about that. So you can pay a lot more attention to the sort of details.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah. And
especially when I'm recording, because when I'm recording, like if I'm playing a game on my own, I'll be so focused at my objective and everything that I'll actually be a lot better at it than when I'm recording. But when I'm recording, I'll miss such obvious things, like things just sitting right in the middle of the floor, or I'll miss a slight bit of dialogue because I'm talking to myself, and then it will mess up the next 20 minutes of video.
Yeah, I've done that. I've skipped over little moments that have ended up being key, and then I kind of suddenly I watch it back afterwards and go, oh God, no! I just that 1 second I missed, I wasn't paying attention, or I then end up I missed like something a piece of information given to you, and I get so confused. Like when I got so confused, I thought that Isaac's girlfriend was Kendra because I wasn't paying attention, and I was just like, and then afterwards I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't Kendra. Oh, it doesn't matter, But okay, so getting back to Haunting Ground. As you say, it was quite frustrating at points. Did you ever consider sort of abandoning it completely just to the frustration? Or do you think that once you've sort of started, that you should always see one through?
I like to see LPs through. I mean, there's ones at the minute that I've stopped on because they either frustrated me or people didn't seem to be enjoying them as much. But Haunting Ground, every time I turned it on, I seem to be getting chased by one of the, pursuers for a good 45 minutes into the first episode. So I was just like, for God's sake, I've had enough of this, and I wanted to quit. But when you upload it and think it's going to be a failure, and then there's so many people saying, it's hilarious when you die every 2 seconds. So, I was like, oh, well, I'll carry on putting up then regardless, which is basically what I do with all my videos, just carry on, and even if I die a billion times, still put it up.
And so as a game, do you really hate it, or can you sort of appreciate it for what it is as such? Can you sort of see the amusement factor? And like I was saying, like even though there's kind of flaws in some of the mechanics, for example, as I say, I think one of the funniest things I found was when Fiona will be running away and there'll be no object around her, and she'll literally be, when she freaks out and she's screaming, and then she'll just fall down. She'll just be running along and be like, oh, and like fall flat on her face all the time. But I say, do you just hate that, or do you find that you can kind of see the value in the kind of comedy as a playthrough, maybe not as a game, more as a playthrough?
I hated it when I was playing it like with a passion, and even now it's, I treat my games with like good respect and everything, but Haunting Ground is at the bottom of my wardrobe under some shoes, because that's what I do with games that I really hate, like Duke Nukem Forever and Call of Cthulhu. But I can appreciate it for what it was trying to do. Some of it might have fell through because they didn't really have the, technology or the right coding at the time, or whatever. It might have been like Huey getting stuck in a garden and stuff, but
that was
I
awesome.
appreciate what it was doing. And if I wasn't LP in it, because when I'm LP in something, I want to try and make progress rather than spending an hour and a half in one place just going like, what am I doing? But so I was probably just getting a bit too frustrated by the fact that I wasn't making progress, because I was pretty much having to track right the way back through the castle because I was being chased by Debilitas or whatever. So I think now if I was playing it in my own time, I would probably appreciate the game a lot more.
Yeah. And would you do that? Is it the kind of game that you would definitely play for yourself, or is it something you would sort of choose and save just for YouTube? I mean, is it kind of, do you choose always specific styles of game for YouTube, or is it kind of certain things you'll only play yourself,
Back in the day, it was things like Fatal Frame and Haunting Ground and things like that, survival horror-y type games that were mostly puzzle based, but in the end you kind of run out of those, so I had to branch off into other things. But I do more enjoy having to play the game all the way through for an LP, because if I was playing Haunting Ground by myself and I got stuck, I would just be like, give up.
Yeah.
But because I was making videos, I had to finish it.
Yeah.
And I would like to do that with things like what is it called? Echo something. It's like a moon-based survival horror. I'd like to do that on PS2 one day.
And do you think your commentary kind of suited the game? Like, if you didn't react the way you did in some situations, would it have been less appealing, you think? Because, I mean, obviously there's long periods, like you say, where you're just running around doing nothing. So I think that, that says a lot for you as a commentator, that people can stay so interested in a game. And it is, I think, you don't see it because as yourself, you're talking when you're in game and you're not really thinking about it. But again, as a viewer, when you watch these things back, you have a quite different perspective. So for you, what could seem fairly mundane is actually quite interesting to others. But as I say, do you think that, were you kind of aware that your commentary suited the game, or are you literally just doing your work and putting it out there?
When I'm recording, I kind of sort of not so much blank what I'm saying, but whatever that comes out of my mouth is usually kind of just on the spur of the moment. So it's not like an attempt to try and say something humorous or anything like that. It's just me kind of talking and being engaged in the game. I mean, somebody pointed it out in my latest Dark Souls video that like I'm so engrossed in the game that I'll actually start doing the voices and everything. It makes it a lot more interesting. But that's pretty much one of the reasons I started making videos anyway. It's because I found myself doing this to myself, like playing Silent Hill 1. I'd be, following the little girl, and as she was running away, I'd be like, chase me, and all this. So I was like, why don't I just start recording? And that's what happens.
I think as well, something that people have pointed out about my ones when I've had my subscribers commenting is that something they really enjoy is when people play things through slower. And like you say, this is when you get more engrossed. People actually like it, that when you take time to look around at things and not just, right, I'm going to do this playthrough today, it's going to be 100% complete and I'm going to do it literally a fast run as fast as possible. And they literally go through and just do everything as quickly as possible. I personally myself don't really see the value in that, because there's no story, there's no involvement with the commentator, there's no involvement with the game. It's literally going through it in a very kind of technical way. I mean, what do you think about people playing through stuff like that? And obviously this relates to yours, because we're sort of saying the way that you play is very kind of involved. You really get stuck into the game, you get drawn into the game, like for example with Cthulhu as well. It's another example. But do you find that those are kind of more valuable as such, or do you think each has its own place?
I personally, if I'm watching an LP, I prefer it to be a blind one, or at least one that somebody's not played for a very long time, so they're a bit rusty. If I see somebody playing through a game and they know exactly what they're doing and they just sort of rush through it, it's impressive when you're watching a speed run. But if you're watching an LP and people are just like, I'm going to go over here, pick this up, I'm going to do this, go over here, and the game's finished, then it's not really what I like. But even with me and Dark Souls, even though I've played it once through already, I am still terrible at it, and I think that's what keeps me going. If I was just going in and killing everything immediately, then it wouldn't be as interesting. But you know, as far as LPs go, I think it should always be your genuine reactions to like either a first time playthrough or just you being not very good.
I think that's as well why making errors in LPs is actually better. It's a good thing. If you go through and make no mistakes, it can actually be kind of tedious because nothing really happens. You just go through and go, okay, I'm going over here, pick these items up, I'm going to talk to so and so, blah blah blah, and then we've completed this section, go on to the next one. Whereas if you screw things up and you're like, what the hell do we do here? I'm going to back through, oh my god, there's a guy coming after me, blah, blah. It kind of adds more interest, more flavour to the game when you screw things up, and it also gives your viewers a bit more interaction because they may know what's going on. And so it's almost like when you watch a film or TV show, the viewer often is given more information than the characters in the film or such. And as a person playing through the game, I often feel like that's the same situation where the people watching may actually know what you're trying to do. So for them, they're literally shouting at the screen, "No, don't go that way!" When it's like, that's I like that idea.
Yeah, there was a lot of people saying about when I was playing Fatal Frame 3 or Project Zero 3, whatever you want to call it, and I was just walking around the house, and every time I'd go to a place, I'd always scan the environment or like use my camera to zoom in on the video screen that I was watching or whatever, but there was always a ghost that appeared. And I didn't get told till about 4 videos afterwards that getting your camera out spawns a random ghost. So, it was my fault. And I was complaining at the game about it. I was just like, I want to watch the video, let me watch the video. I'm getting killed by little girls, but my fault.
In Haunting Ground, out of all the characters, did you have a favourite, or do you have a favourite enemy? Like, which of the kind of... Because there was some, they're all quite classic, quite strong characters in each of their roles. Even Huey was kind of a bizarre but frustrating character in itself, and it was really fun the way you sort of took on the characters. And there was a great episode where you had the whole kind of their little meeting before you started the videos, which is hilarious. But did you have any favourites out of both sides, the sort of the friendly and the enemies?
Well, the friendly was, even though he was useless, it was obviously Huey, just because he was there and he helped out, and I felt bad when he got kicked in the face by any of the enemies, and I wanted to help him, but you can't. I always, in games and movies, I always feel something for the animals in it, whether they're rubbish or not. But for the villain side, it was Daniela all the way. I mean, she was the only haunting thing about Haunting Ground, and she was the thing that about that is that she wasn't so much scary. She was just awkward. Like she was like, hello miss, blah blah blah, I can't feel pleasure and all this. I was just like, ooh, stay away.
She was really disturbing, and I think out of any game I've played, probably one of the most freaky, scary, bizarre villains I've ever seen in anything. Like her kind of bizarre mix of slightly borderline sexual, she was just really full on, and then combine that with like the quite nasty sort of violent aspect. She was really evil for
she was odd.
Yeah, really.
I don't know,
because some of the other sort of some sections where she killed you, wasn't it? I think
and she made those noises. I think what they was trying to do with her is because she was like created or something by that evil chap. Like she said she couldn't feel pain, she couldn't experience like any sort of pleasure or like anything like that. But then when she killed you, she actually did feel something, and like when you killed her, she also felt something, which is why she was sort of dancing in the glass. But she was quite a disturbing young lady.
I do remember with her bizarre head shaking always all the time. She had hilarious laughter and she's just freaking out.
And also that weird walk. Like a lot of people that I talked to about when she started walking like a robot, I don't know whether that was a glitch or what, but nobody else seemed to have experienced that apart from me. I don't know if it was just my game going wrong, but I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's great.
And I love their music as well.
I think it's always great when you can have a game that's kind of linear but unlinear, if that makes sense. So it's kind of, you are on the sort of same path as everyone else, but you have your own unique situations as that happens through the game. And I know it's happened with several people that I've played games with and friends that I've had play games with. And I mean, obviously some games that are more open world, like sort of Fallout, it's a bit different. I mean, Fallout's a great one for that kind of thing where you're all doing the same missions, but every time it's very different because you encounter a situation, maybe the guy's already been killed by some rogue enemies or something, and you can't even I mean, this was what happened with it was very early on in the original Fallout one, and Fallout 3, and we were coming down to the sort of shopping market or whatever, and when I got down there was a guy and he was like, oh hey, come and help me find this and blah blah. I was like, okay, come along. My friend, when he was playing it through, went down there and they'd all been just slaughtered, so they couldn't even start the quest to begin with. So I think that's kind of great. But again,
I can relate to that because Dawn Guard, the Skyrim DLC.
Yes.
When I had to go back to a save that was like a good 45 minutes ago and uninstall Dawn Guard because I hadn't finished the main plot quest yet, and they was coming into, like, these vampires were coming into the cities and just sort of killing everyone, no matter what they were. I know NPCs can't die, but some of them who had side quests were dying. So I was like, people who are going to end up with a Game of the Year edition that they're obviously going to come out with at some point, they're just going to start their game and then everybody's going to be dead. So good job.
But okay, let's go back to Haunting Ground, getting off topic slightly. The plot overall. What did you think about the plot of Haunting Ground overall? Do you think it was a good story, or was it, like many elements within there, it wasn't perhaps as solid as it could have been?
It was weird. They didn't really explain it in the way that they should have. I mean, there was no reason for Fiona's car crash from what I can see, apart from her parents dying and her being captured. But like it was kind of a humongous plot element. But then basically the whole game was just about them trying to get an Azoth out of her, which I kind of assume is a clone or a fetus or something. I just didn't understand any of it. And then everybody looked like her dad. I was just like, what is happening?
I don't know whether it's right to kind of talk about the ending for anyone who hasn't seen this or not, but I think what we could say is it was kind of understated. It was not really the huge...
my ending?
well, so yeah, I mean, I know you say there's different endings, but they, I think not as grandiose as you could expect, you know what I mean?
All right, well, spoiler alert for everybody who's not seen it, but I was so underwhelmed when I was like, I did it! And then I got the ending, which was just Debilitash trimming a small shrub. I was like, thanks.
We did it. It's kind of like you expect some nice resolution and a bit of, perhaps a little bit more backstory or what happens next. No.
Nope.
Just nothing.
Well worth it.
When we talk about cutscenes as well, what inspires you to put in your little cutaways and even your sort of real life cutaways, like for example with your dog and stuff like that? Is it just you? Does it feel very natural for you to have these elements in? Does it feel part of what it is that you're trying to make for viewers?
Yeah, I used to like doing that a lot. When I haven't got my video camera anymore, the hard drive failed on it. But whenever I was inspired to do any sort of cutaway element, I would, if I had the thought in my head, I would sort of announce it in the LP and then remember to record that sort of Lily running up the stairs or something. But people have asked me to do those scare diary things now, and I can't because I haven't got a camera. But I probably should get one for that.
Do you think it was successful overall as an LP? Like, do you look back on it and think, yeah, I was kind of proud of that? It went well overall. Despite, as you say, there was some hilarity moments where things just... I remember there was like whole episodes where nothing really happened. This is like Huey getting stuck in the garden and you spend so much time trying to get him out. And then you're like, right, well, we haven't really got time to do anything else today because Huey's been in the garden for the whole episode, But as a body of work, like as a whole playthrough, because it was long, that's the thing. I think that's the other thing is that it's great about playthroughs. When you, like you say, when you complete them, the fact that they're fully completed, it really feels like a proper achievement. The fact that you've spent so much time commentating, editing them together, putting them online, being involved with subscribers, and then when you come to the end of it, it really is something I think that you can stand by and say, yeah, I was really pleased, really proud that I did that. Did that feel like that for you?
Yeah, it was a major achievement to actually get myself to complete that game. I mean, it was so difficult. It didn't really give you any idea of where to go. It was just basically you doing what you had to do while being pursued, but there was so much in the way, like the luminescence, those little screaming things that attach themselves to your legs and stuff like that. It just, I mean, it was one of the biggest achievements of that time, I think, because I mean, especially with my old internet and stuff, every episode of Haunting Ground probably took like 2 hours or something to upload. So, you know, it was a big achievement to finish it off, and that's why I made that little rock bandy montage thing at the end and went to the trouble of actually making Fiona and that at the end.
Let's talk a little bit about Fiona, because obviously the developers styled her in a certain way.
They manufactured her purely for her bouncing bosom.
It was just hilarious, and there's so many situations where that just came up because it's just comedy. And then to get halfway through the game and they basically stripped her the bare clothes that she already had.
When a game starts with a woman wearing a sheet, you know that it's going to be bad.
It's really bad. I think Capcom as well are particularly bad at this throughout all their games. It just seems to be this kind of staple theme that they run on and on. But I mean, with the game itself, though, would you have done it differently if you had any opportunities? Or anything that you think back that you would like to have changed? As say, you mentioned that you perhaps would have done different endings and stuff. Do you think that, again, sort of tied in with doing it differently, would you ever want to do any different endings? Would you ever want to sort of take a look back at that?
I mean, if I was able to do something like they do, like with the old Star Wars films or old films in general, where you can, you know, digitally remaster, I'd probably, you know, pick up the old video quality and sound quality a bit, because, you know, back then I was just doing it as a kind of side project off of the back of a university project, just distracting myself from having to do work. But now it's obviously taken a bit more serious, and I would like to have, you know, made the video quality a bit better so you could actually see when something was going on over there. I'm shouting about something like, look over there, but nobody can really see it because like there's a bit of sun glare in the top corner or something. But that's basically it, really. I think that the whole game in general went quite well, despite my imminent failings of 10 videos of me just running around going, what?
Okay, so I think it's a good time to wrap up here. We've been talking about Haunting Ground today, and as I say, if you haven't seen it, I really would advise it because it's hilarious and a really, really fun one to go with. So, Heartless, have you got any sort of final thoughts there just before we finish?
Only that if you want to watch a playthrough of somebody not knowing what they're doing and getting frustrated and dealing possibly with every bug imaginable on the game Haunting Ground that will disturb you entirely and probably make you laugh quite a bit, then you know, I'd probably check out the LP and check out the game itself if you want to have a little mental breakdown. So,
I'm going to say thanks for watching today, guys. Be sure to check out Heartless's channel, and if you like playthroughs and gameplay as well, be sure to check out my new game channel. They'll both be linked in the notes. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Help! Thanks. See, Huey, you're alright when you're not being rubbish. Quick! No!
Go!
Kill the thing, Huey! Huey! Help! Idiot! Shut up, Huey. Oh, for the love of poltergeists. From the film Poltergeist! Help, Huey!
Huey!
Kill the thing, or is it dead already? It's dead. You suck, Huey. I'd do a better job of if I hired a moth to try and kill it. Yeah, I'm a moth. I'll do the job for you, twice as good as Huey. I can't even move, I've just got to stand here and wait for it. Oh yeah, good. Come on, Huey.
Huey!
Come on, please. I've never seen a dog move slow in my entire life. Come on!
Come on! Come on! Good boy!
Come on! Follow me! Follow! F-O-L-L-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O! Follow!
You... No.
Come here.
Come on. Good boy.
Come here. This dog has something wrong in its head. I give up. Screw you.
You...
Ah! If anybody can give me any pointers on why the hell this dog is such a mug, then I'd be so grateful, because I don't know how to control this prat.
You...
Come out of the garden!
Come on.
Come here! Hooray! Jesus Christ!